There have been 2 pay-per-view events so far in 2024, and underdogs have won in the main event of both. In fact, underdogs have won 5 of the 7 main events in 2024. So the question becomes, can Sean O'Malley buck that trend? Can he be the first favorite to win a pay-per-view main event? Can he avenge his only MMA loss? Well, my name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to break down the entire UFC 299 fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and bets. Before I do, let's spend a second talking about UFC Vegas 87. All in all, I thought it was a decent card. It wasn't spectacular, but there was some exciting fights. There was 2 wild come-from-behind victories, a couple of savage knockouts. The slumped Bernardo Sopai, that was an insane come-from-behind flying knee knockout. Well, this thumbnail is a ridiculous picture and a fake Home Alone face, but I do have a 30-some-odd minute video breaking down that card, the picks, the bets, but also how I felt about those fighters, what I think they should do next, and why Mark Goddard might be the best referee in the business. So go ahead and check that video out. Let's spend a little more time focusing on pay-per-views. Pay-per-views and fight nights tend to be very different. Fight nights seem to be a little more volatile. Pay-per-views, we have a ton of success. Specifically, the pay-per-views this year in 2024 so far, Safety Parlay is 2-0. Safety Parlay is a parlay that I put on the board every single week. It can't hit at 100%, but with pay-per-views, it's pretty damn close. This year, the 2 pay-per-views this year, Safety Parlay undefeated. Put up 1.84 units of net profit. That is a 92% ROI on that one single bet alone. On pay-per-views this year, if you look at every single bet, Jakey Boy and myself put on the board 7.93 units of net profit and a 37% ROI. And I'm hoping we parlay that success to UFC 299. If we take a closer look at that safety parlay, if we zoom out, the last 5 pay-per-views, undefeated safety parlay with more than 100% ROI, 5.2147 units of net profit on the last 5 pay-per-views. I have hit 9 of the last 11 safety parlays. It did break last night at UFC Vegas 87. Javid Bajarat was pretty much the leg that broke it. I didn't agree with that decision, but I break that down in detail in that recap video. Overall, the safety parlay in its entirety, in the lifetime that this parlay has existed, it hits at a 71% event rate and a 29% lifetime ROI. While it missed last night, and that is extremely disappointing, these are astronomical numbers. And if you look at it as a whole, astronomical giant numbers. You can unlock the safety parlay right now. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10 a month. $10 a month. Which means if you signed up today, you will get 4 full events with that $10, including UFC. Was UFC 300 hit? I don't know if that falls into this category. But either way, you're going to get 4 events starting right now. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10, and you're going to get far more than just my bets and Jacob's bets and a safety parlay. You're also going to get tools. One of those tools is the line movement tracker. This is going to give you the opening odds, the current odds, the win probability, and the line movement for every single fighter on every single card. This card, $299, has some interesting line movement. Curtis Blaydes opened at a plus 160 dog. He is now the slight favorite. And there's some other interesting movement on here as well. You're also going to get detailed data, metrics, and analytics. 38 columns of information that you can use to find prop bets, to scare yourself away from bets that maybe you shouldn't be making. Not only do we have this giant color-coded spreadsheet, but we also have it divided up into digestible sections directly on the website that you can interact with. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. There's plenty of fantasy tools as well. We have the best DraftKings ownership projections in the game. If you play DraftKings Fantasy, you know how important these projections are. We have the lowest margin of error by a good chunk. And then these ownership projections, week in and week out, are preloaded into our lineup optimizer, which builds lineups for you. And here is some success. This is from last night. We had a ticket just like this 2 weeks ago. $17,750 from Joseph Wirtz using the tools, the insight, the picks. He is a premium member, and you can become one too. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10 a month. It's not some weirdo Patreon with a list of 4 bets. It's not a weirdo Patreon with a list of 50 bets. It is a full-blown interactive website loaded with tools and information. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. That's the promo. What'd I get it in at? Ooh, under 5 minutes. We're cooking, baby. This is an interesting card. It's supposed to be better than UFC 300, right? That's the rumor. The rumor is that UFC 299, well, it's not a rumor, That's the scuttlebutt. You guys already think I'm old. I should say words like scuttlebutt. But that's the general consensus. Bang, I got there. The general consensus is that UFC 299 is better than UFC 300. And then you zoom out and you got some conspiracy theories. And the conspiracy theorists are saying the UFC stacked UFC 299 to try to make Sean O'Malley a star. Sean O'Malley can't sell pay-per-views. He's not a star. The UFC wants him to be. So they load up his pay-per-views with really good fights so that he can pretend to be a star. I don't know. I don't know why they would try to do that. But either way, this is a spectacular card. I don't think it's better than 300. But it is a spectacular card with 14 fights. So let's go ahead and jump in. Opening up UFC 299, we have Joanne Wood taking on Maryna Moroz. And this is an interesting fight. A lot of the fights on this card have a similar dynamic, a changing of the guard dynamic, the tried and true vet taking on somebody a little younger, a little fresher, somebody trying to take their position in the rankings. And Joanne Wood is the tried and true vet. She's a technical striker. She's got solid kicks, good pressure. She mixes up her techniques really well. She's got knees, elbows, kicks, punches. When she decides to grapple, she's got some decent takedowns and then some decent takedown defense. She does like to dictate the pace. She does have some solid volume with an impressive striking differential of 7-5. And she has fought some of the best women on planet Earth, but she is starting to slow down. She did just avoid a 4-fight skid with a pretty narrow split decision against Luana Carolina. She's taking on Maryna Moroz. Maryna Moroz is a busy striker. She mixes her techniques up really well as well. She has nice movement on her feet, and she avoids the pocket. She likes to stay on the outside, likes to control from there. If she does end up in the pocket, she can be hittable, and you can see that with her negative striking differential. But she does have the ability to work in takedowns. She's coming off a submission loss to Karine Silva where she was knocked down early. This is a rematch. This first fight happened all the way back in 2015. Maryna won that fight, but I'm not putting that means nothing to me. There's no credence to that whatsoever. 2015, that's 9 years ago. Their careers went in very different paths since then. Maryna Moroz is sitting as a 2-1 favorite right now, and I don't get it. Sure, Joanne Calderwood is getting up there in age. She's never been dangerous, ever. So she is a point fighter, and she's aging out. We just watched point fighter Jailton Bajarat shit the bed. Don't get me all worked up about that. But Joanne has always been very technically sound. She's got solid fight IQ. Outside of the Maryna loss, the first time they fought, she has only lost to ranked fighters and tighter challengers, former champions. Those are her only losses. So I'm going to lean the vet here. I'm going to lean Joanne Wood. I'm going to pick her as a dog. Obviously, she's 38. She's slowing down. She is past her prime, past her peak. But I think she can get this fight to the cage and then win what is probably going to be a boring, grindy type decision. But Maryna Moroz sitting at a 2-1 favorite seems really wide to me. I get it. She won this fight already. That was 9 years ago. She was just dropped in her last fight. Joanne Calderwood is the low confidence pick, and I am going to watch that line movement tracker. If she continues to become a larger and larger dog, Maryna's a 2-1 favorite, so Joanne's not quite a 2-1 dog, but it's getting there. And if it does get there, I'll throw a couple of dollars at it because not only do I think she actually wins this fight, I don't know what we need to worry about here. She's not going to get knocked out. She's far better than she was in 2015 getting subbed. So Joanne Calderwood, oh, no, sorry. She's married now. Sorry, Jacob. Married. Joanne Wood. How interesting is that? It was Joanne Calderwood. That was her name her whole life. And then she married somebody with almost the same last name. And I got 2 little girls. And that's it for the bloodline. No son. 2 little girls. Apparently I have weak sperm. 2 little girls. That's it for the last name. It dies with them. Poured out for the last name. Then we got CJ Vergara taking on Asu Almabaev. This will be a banger. The first fight, the fight I just broke down, might not be. This absolutely will. Because we got CJ Vergara, high pressure striker, solid forward motion. He's got clean boxing, solid knees. He likes to fight inside the pocket where he can use his clinch work, showcase some of that power. He has a never say die attitude, and while he has no recorded takedowns in the UFC, his BJJ is solid, and so are his scrambles. He's coming off that decision win over Vinicius Salvador, where he landed the more meaningful strikes and defended a couple of takedowns. He's taken on hyped prospect Asu Almabaev. Asu Almabaev is a flashy striker and a dominant grappler. He can control the striking range and even work in some spinning attacks before shooting big takedowns. He'll control on top once he gets it to the ground. He does not go looking for submissions, but he does do a great job grabbing them and snatching them up in scrambles. He is strong, he sets a nice pace, and he's got plenty of cardio. He's coming off that submission win over Ode Osborne, where he was backing up, but he threw huge punches and had great takedowns. This has to be Asu. I got to pick Asu here. CJ is nuts tough. Like, absolutely nuts tough. You saw that in the Lacerda fight where he was basically unconscious and then had the energy to sprint around the cage. It was like a cartoon with a cloud of dust. Just that was, I thought that was clown music. And that, how does the clown music go? Yeah, I got there. Oh, boy, if I didn't get that right now, that would have driven me nuts the entire day. Anyway, Asu's, do I have ADD? Asu is going to win this fight. He's just too good. He's wild on his feet. He's great on the ground. He can hang in the cardio department with CJ. And quite simply, if Tatsuro Taira, who is very good, but if Tatsuro Taira is taking down CJ Vergara 3 times, so is Asu. Asu's going to be the pick. I think he is safe to parlay. I'm done. He's no Javid Bajrat. What I am done with, learn my lesson, what I am done with is these not dangerous guys. I'm done with these point fighters that's definitely going to go to a decision, because look what happened. Ayman Zahabi was just sitting on right hands, just sitting there waiting. I don't think Ayman won that fight. I do think that was a bad decision. Not the worst we've ever seen. But either way, because Javid's not dangerous, Ayman was able to just hang out, eat whatever pillow-fisted bullshit came his direction and then launch overhands, and the judges seem to love it. So I have to be more careful looking at some of these technical point fighter guys. That is not Asu. He is not very technical on his feet, and he is not a point fighter. He is looking to take your head off, and then he has the cardio to continue to try to take your head off. I'm very confident in Asu Almabaev. And if you're doing your own research, sometimes Asu has 2 S's, sometimes it has 1. I don't know. I don't have his birth certificate. I don't know which one's correct. I'm going with the Tapology spelling. Then we have an absolute savage, a beast, a giant, terrifying human being in Robelis Despaigne. He is taking on Josh Parisian. Robelis Despaigne, you probably saw this. It went viral, I don't know, a month or 2 ago, maybe less than that. Whenever they announced this fight, there was article after article of the UFC just signed Olympic beast Robelis Despaigne. The UFC just signed 6'7" Olympian. And I get it. I get it. But I will say, there are a lot of questions for this fight. But we got Robelis Despaigne. You haven't heard his name because he's making his UFC debut. You haven't seen him fight because he only has 4 fights. And he fought for like 20 seconds total. This guy is an absolute monster of a human being, though. He's a massive 6'7" and an Olympic Taekwondo medalist, which means he's spinning, he's jumping, he's kicking. He is wildly flexible, athletic, and fast for a human being that size. It makes absolutely no sense. There's not much footage of his MMA career, though, because A, he only has 4 fights so far, and B, the cumulative total of his last 3 fights, the total of all 3 of his last fights, or the total of his 3 last, I'm just going to leave it at that, his last 3 fights in a cage, from touch gloves to go, the total for all 3 of them together, 19 seconds. 19 seconds. He knocked out 3 people in under 20 seconds. So he clearly has insane power in both his hands and his feet. If you go watch his Taekwondo matches, which you basically need to do some research here, you're going to see speed, athleticism, and timing. He does get hit, though. Even in those 19 seconds of MMA, his hands are low and he gets tagged. That's that Taekwondo stance. It hasn't been an issue yet because nobody with any power has been able to touch him. And we don't know what the takedown defense is either because we just haven't seen it. But we do know he may be the most powerful guy at heavyweight right now, and he is getting a late start. Dude's 35. There's not much time to build him into a superstar. So you're going to see a couple of soft matchups, and then boom, title shot. That's what you're going to see with Robelis. They don't have all the time in the world to get him going. But either way, guy's a stud. He's taking on Josh Parisian. sort of an entity at heavyweight. Not going to be a world champion anytime soon, but not a complete bum. He's a tough guy. He'll hang out. He'll strike. He'll do all the things he's supposed to do. Big enough guy as well. He's a come-forward striker, ton of output. He can throw punches for 15 full minutes. He's not going to gas. He's not going to gazeve himself. That's slob. He will continue to come forward and stay busy. But he will lose the sting. He'll slow down a little bit in the later rounds. While he does have 10 knockouts on his record, they're not one punch. He's not a one-punch power guy. He's not Robelis with the power. It's a lot of volume, a lot of busy, wear-down type striking. He is a volume guy. He does rely on pressure and the occasional takedown. He is coming off the submission loss to Martin Budai, where he was able to showcase his toughness, though, which he's going to need here. Robelis is a 4-1 favorite. He's a minus 400, which means if you're new here, and there's a lot of new people that watch, and welcome. And then I get a lot of questions every week. Hey, what does this bet mean? What does that bet mean? What are these odds? 4-1 favorite is minus 400, which means you would have to spend $400 to try to win 100. If you spend $100, you'll win 20. 4-1 favorite. And after this fight, you might watch and look and be like, well, that dude should have been a 9-1 favorite. Look what he just did to Josh Parisian. And on the surface, 4-1 seems very fair. He's an Olympic medalist. He's putting 19 seconds to knock out 3 different people. But think what you want about Parisian. This is a giant step up in competition for Robelis. Parisian's not some regional guy that was thrown in there to get knocked out. Parisian has 4 wins in the UFC. He's notably durable, and he could sneak in a takedown or 2. He's also 6'4", so he's not small. He's not tiny. He has almost 6 times the MMA experience. The only real issue here is Parisian has no power. So even if he is touching Robelis, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to bounce off the giant head. If Parisian had one-punch knockout power and he had a little bit of a better chin, I actually would think he'd be a great dog. But he doesn't have a great chin. It's good. It's not great. And he doesn't have wild one-punch knockout power. So I do have to go Robelis here. And I might do a high-risk parlay. What I try to do, what I like to do, is I try to take the risky fighters and parlay them together. There's nothing more frustrating than a great parlay and the one risky fighter breaks it. So I personally, everybody's got their own style. I like to take the people who I am confident enough to parlay, but I do worry about them, and put them together. So we might get a Robelis, and we'll talk about some of the other people I could potentially put in that style parlay where it's like, I think he wins, but it is a UFC debut. We saw a couple of UFC debuts shit the bed recently. Either way, guy's an absolute savage. I do look forward to him turning into somebody so that we can get just some juice into the heavyweight division. They tried to push Gaziv. They tried to rush him. They tried to give us, here's a new heavyweight, a Dagestani. Turns out he quits on the stool and has about 4.5 minutes of cardio. Turns out. Slob. Then we have Philipe Lins taking on Jan Cutelaba. This fight was supposed to happen a little while ago, a couple of months ago. It was canceled on fight night because Philipe Lins was not feeling well. I don't know if it was a tummy ache. I don't know what it was. But he wasn't feeling well. They canceled it on fight night. Just didn't walk. And there's nothing, if you do DraftKings fantasy, there is nothing more frustrating than a fight canceled after the lineups are locked and the broadcast is live. That's insane. It's insane that that's still a thing. And then DraftKings tried to fix it by saying, okay, we'll let you adjust your lineups during the game. We know things happen. And then all people were doing was like looking at scores and then chasing, adding in super affordable people. It was just sloppy. It is what it is. We just have to deal with people like Philipe. I mean, fantastic hair. But people like Philipe who get a little tummy ache backstage. But anyway, we got Philipe Lins. He is a former heavyweight. He's worked his way down to light heavyweight. He does have legit power in his hands. And he seems to have carried that power with him from heavyweight to light heavyweight. He's a BJJ black belt. He does prefer to hang out inside the pocket and trade or walk you down with those heavy hands. He's coming off that decision win over Maxim Grishin where he looked to have some power and was swinging heavy, but he did go all in on the wrestling, and most of his takedown attempts looked like ass. They did not look good. Very low IQ. Didn't really finish them the way that you're supposed to. And I am overly critical. I'm wrestling my whole life, so I'm overly critical of some of the wrestling takedowns, especially if it's literally your job. It's your job. That's your livelihood. That's how you get paid. And then you're doing sloppy, weird entry type takedowns. But anyway, Philipe Lins. He does look like a Vinny, doesn't he? Oh, hey, oh. Anyway, he's taking on Jan Cutelaba. Cutelaba is a grappler who happens to have very good power in his hands as well, and he is happy to fight in a phone booth despite his questionable chin. He's a feast or famine fighter, so he's either going to chase a stoppage and get it or just get put out on his way in. He is good on the ground. He does rack up tons of takedowns, but he can be sloppy as hell with some body locks, just using muscle more than technique. Cutelaba does get finished in his losses, but he traditionally gets finished by great strikers or great BJJ guys, not just like good, well-rounded guys. He is coming off that upset win over Tanner Boser where all he needed was one takedown and 2 minutes. Cutelaba is a tricky guy to break down because he gets finished a lot. Like, the guy gets finished, but he is crazy dangerous. He's 6-8-1 in the UFC, but those 8 losses are all to quality opponents. Philipe Lins would most likely be the worst opponent that Jan has lost to if he were to lose this fight. But Philipe is a durable guy. He's got powerful leg kicks, a good chin. He's listed at having a 100% takedown defense, but that is hollow because he hasn't fought anybody with good takedowns as Cutelaba. I think Cutelaba can win this fight. I'm going to roll the dice. Ooh, I was about to do a dice roll motion, but I think we all know what that actually looks like. Ooh, good thing I didn't put that on camera. That would have been clipped. I'm going to roll the dice on this fight. I am going to go with Cutelaba. No way do I spend money on this fight. He's way too chinny. Maybe if we get a 1.5 round line and the over's like plus 200, I'll sprinkle on that. I love overs on 1.5s, but I mean, there's a lot going against that bet as well. Probably just going to watch this one and enjoy it. There's 14 fights in this card. You don't need to bet on every single one of them. Then we have Michel Pereira chilling at 185 pounds, giving you the blue steel look of death, taking on Michał Oleksiejczuk. Michel Pereira is a capoeira fighter. That's that Brazilian dance fighting, the constant movement, the spinning, all of the flashy kicks, the jumping punches, and all of that. And for the majority of his career, he was a very large, a humongous 170-pounder who struggled to make weight, which is why he is officially a middleweight. This is his second fight at middleweight, and he's looking for his second win here. Every time I break down Michel Pereira, I am shocked at this guy's age. I assume he's like 36. A, he looks a little older, and B, he has been around forever. But he's only 30 years old. It's actually crazy, and it makes me feel really bad about myself. I'm 40. I guess he's 10 years younger than me, but Jesus. I look like I'm 80 standing next to Michel Pereira. At least I'm taller than him. Either way, Michel Pereira is unbelievably talented. He still does have a touch of crazy, but he has far more control now. He's not just spinning around for the sake of spinning around, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. He's got a little bit of a crazy, but we know he has 15 minutes of cardio. We know he will grind. We know he will shoot takedowns. We know he can be durable. And he's coming off of that 1-minute knockout win over Andre Petroski, where he only needed 6 strikes to get it done in his middleweight debut. So, hey, Michel Pereira is a middleweight. Hey, Michel Pereira has power at middleweight. He's taking on one of the better middleweight strikers, Michał Oleksiejczuk. This guy's a very good striker. He's very fast, ton of pressure, and is going to be a real test at 185 pounds for Pereira. Michał has power, which we've seen in his last 3 wins. And while he is dangerous on his feet, he does have some grappling holes, and he can fade as the fight goes on. He's coming off the finish win over Chidi Injakawani, where he survived an onslaught on his feet, showcased his chin. That dude got blasted a few times before he turned the tide and got that done. And if Michał Oleksiejczuk didn't just show us that he has a phenomenal chin, which he did, and we know that, but if we didn't just see that phenomenal chin, I might have put my life savings on Pereira here. He's got better cardio, just as much power, far better grappling, and more ways to win this fight. I still think Pereira wins this fight, and I do like the odds at -130. I've got a little bit of a bet on that as well, half a unit on Pereira here. So he is the pick. I've got that bet, but the only reason I kept it at half a unit is because Michał does have an insane chin, and we've seen this before. We've seen fighters before get those big knockouts and then abandon every other skill they have just to get that knockout again. And if Michel is headhunting, just trying to knock Michał out this whole time, Michał is fast and a very good striker and could potentially survive early and then just point his way around and win. I don't think that happens. I am going Michel Pereira. I do hope he mixes it up, works in some takedowns as well. Michel Pereira is the pick. and I do have a half a unit on him at -130. I mean, you know this is a stacked card when you have Pedro Munhoz in the prelims, and like early in the prelims as well. We're nowhere near the featured prelim. And Pedro Munhoz isn't a stud. He isn't a superstar, but he's a good enough name to not be buried in the prelims. We got Pedro Munhoz taking on Kyler Phillips. Tell me Kyler Phillips is so pretty. The only word is pretty, because it's like very, like handsome is like, oh, a beard, I work on a ranch. Pretty, I mean, tell me this, like look at the smoothest skin anybody's ever seen. Look at just the fresh out of the shower hair. He looks like you know what Kyler Phillips looks like? You know those pictures that were floating around during football season where they take the quarterbacks and then they turn them into women? Like, oh, would you sleep with Patricia Mahomes? And it's just Patrick Mahomes and an AI said, make it a woman. That's what Kyler Phillips looks like, except reverse. Take a woman, make it a man. And they just left everything the same but added a beard. Very pretty. Good for Kyler Phillips. I'm going to have to do my breakdown like this so I don't get distracted. Anyway, we got Pedro Munhoz. This guy's a volume striker, sets a nonstop pace. He's got incredible leg kicks. Very dangerous BJJ as well, but he doesn't look to get the grounds to the fight. Nope, get the fight to the ground himself. He has a negative striking differential, which is actually surprising because he lands at a very high 5.45 significant strikes per minute. And when you're watching his fights, it doesn't feel like he's getting hit more than he hits his opponents. He is coming off that very close loss to Chito Vera at UFC 292. He's taking on the very pretty Kyler Phillips. This guy is a diverse striker, a well-rounded fighter overall. He can strike, he can grapple, and his feet are always moving, which makes him very difficult to hit and to take down. Most of Kyler's fights, he does a very good job mixing things up, but he is willing to slug it out. He is willing to put on a show, and that can be a problem at times. He has 3 performance of the night bonuses, including his UFC loss to Julian Paiva, where if you look at the stats, he won, but in that fight, he was just getting too wild, too sloppy, couple of weird exchanges that I guess the referees or the judges didn't like. Overall, he's a well-rounded guy with plenty of cardio that he weaponizes. He uses that cardio as a weapon. He's coming off of that win over Hani Barcelos, where he had a knockdown early and then just outworked him the rest of the night. Pedro Munhoz is the better fighter in this matchup. He just is. But he's old. But Pedro's a good striker, good grappler. He's fought the higher level of competition. But Kyler did just show us in his last fight that his pace can be a problem for a lot of people. He'll shoot takedowns. He'll stay in your face. He will never let off the gas. His win over Song Yadong looks better and better every single day. But I am not ready to give up on Pedro Munhoz just yet. Picking him is a tough decision to make. This guy has 1 win in his last 5 fights. He's 37 years old. And as we know, these lower weight classes, the younger guy wins like 68% of the time. Some astronomical number, just pure age. And then you add the wild cardio to that. I got to lean Kyler Phillips here. No bets, though. I don't trust Kyler. I think these odds are too far gone as well. He's too big of a favorite, considering this is his toughest test of his career. I'm going to pick Kyler. I'm not going to bet on him. Pedro is good. If Pedro was just a touch younger, if Pedro was 33, I'd be all over him here, but he hasn't won in a while. And well, if you look at those losses, they're quality, right? Decision to Cheeto. He won that first round objectively, according to me, according to me and the judges. Pedro Munhoz won that first round against Sean O'Malley. It was leg kicks, nothing crazy, but he could do that same thing here. Either way, I haven't given up on Pedro. I don't necessarily fully trust him to win, but I do know that the odds on Kyler are way too wide considering he's relatively untested. No bets here. I don't think you should have any either. Another banger. We got Mateusz Gamrot, a top 5 lightweight on the planet, taking on Rafael dos Anjos, a former world champion. Again, we are not at the featured prelim yet. This isn't even the best undercard fight. Boy, I started this earlier by saying UFC 300 is the better card. I might be wrong. There's a lot of bangers on this card. We got Mateusz Gamrot, a nasty, nasty wrestler. He's got decent striking, diverse set of attacks. He does not have incredible power on his feet, but he is busy and he pushes a pace. Gamrot can out-wrestle pretty much everyone in this division as long as you don't have the defensive scrambles of Beneil Dariush. He sets a relentless pace, and even when he is knocked down, which is often, He's been knocked down. He's got 8 fights in the UFC. He's been knocked down on 4 of them. But even when he is knocked down, he immediately pops back up like a Super Bowl and just starts wrestling, starts working forward. He's coming off the absolute destruction of Rafael Fiziev, where he finished him in the second round. Destroyed that guy. And Rafael Fiziev was supposed to... No, I'm just kidding. It was a freak injury. And in fact, Gamrot lost the first round on all 3 judges' scorecards. And then freak injury to Fiziev, but Gamrot did win that fight. And I think he was going to win that fight anyway. I think he was eventually going to take over with the wrestling, but that's a bad matchup for him. This is not that matchup. He's taking on Rafael dos Anjos, the former lightweight champion of the world. This guy's incredibly well-rounded, but he is a grappler at heart. He's developed over his 39 years, his championship run. He has developed other skills. He's not just a grappler anymore. He can be a technical striker. He has worked on those skills as well. He will trick you into thinking he is a striker because he won't even attempt takedowns. And then you're going to work into the striking, and then that's when he's going to try to sneak in some grappling. He's very good everywhere. He has the fight IQ of a 39-year-old former champion with 47 fights. He is coming off that loss, though, to Vicente Luque, where the script was flipped. Rafael was taken down 8 times when he was the one who was supposed to be in there getting the takedowns. And RDA, Rafael dos Anjos, is an absolute legend. Former lightweight champion of the world, but he is all wrestling offense with no wrestling defense. Gamrot should be able to come forward, take 300 shots, get 5 of them, and win this fight. RDA has great BJJ, but not off his back. He's too short to be throwing up triangles off his back. It's just not going to matter here. I imagine a good amount of this fight is going to take place with RDA on his back. I think Gamrot's just going to shoot a million takedowns, get him to the ground, grind on him, beat him up, and get it done. I'm very confident in Gamrot here. I think he is worth the price tag, and we're going to see an age and evolution of the sport here. RDA was the champion when there weren't just savage, nonstop wrestlers at this weight class. And now there are, and I think RDA is going to have a little bit of a tough night out, but hopefully he doesn't retire. What I do like to see with a lot of these guys who have put it out there, and RDA doesn't get the love he deserves because, yes, he's a former champion. Didn't have the longest title run, but he's a former champion. But he has fought anybody they asked him to fight. He never played games with his contract. He never held out. He didn't do any of that bullshit. And this poor guy missed the payday of a lifetime. He was supposed to fight Conor McGregor for the belt. Supposed to fight Conor McGregor. And then he got hurt. Missed out on the biggest payday of his life. It worked out for us because that's how Nate Diaz squeezed in there and we got that epic rivalry. But I do appreciate Rafael dos Anjos. I think he's been a great ambassador of this sport. Well-spoken guy, no drama, no bullshit, never held out for a contract, doesn't do wild shit talking, goes out there, puts on shows, fights his ass off. I don't know what else you could expect from people like this, so I guess my point is I think Gamrot blows through him. I hope he doesn't retire, and I hope the UFC does him a favor. Give him a reasonable fight against another 40-year-old man in his next fight and let him retire there. More fighters need to say, hey, my next fight's my last fight, and the UFC needs to work with him on somebody else that's in a similar position. I hate when the UFC is like, let's take a guy that has been nothing but good to us and helped us build this business. Let's put him out there so we can lose 28 fights in a row. We'll build some names off his back. I hate when that happens. Either way, long rant. Just to say Mateusz Gamrot's going to blow through RDA. Over 2.5. That will be the round line, and over 2.5 should be good. Then we have Katlyn Chookagian. She is married now. Katlyn Saramina. Sorry. Hey, Jacob. Sorry. She's married now. Easy. Don't be a creep about it. And she's fighting Maycee Barber. Her first fight with her new last name. And this fight might make Jacob's head explode. He might vomit watching this fight. He hates both of these women. And this is actually a pretty good fight. Because we have Katlyn Chookagian. Just a really tough 1s and 2s fighter. Meaning she will stick to the basics. 1-2, 1-2, nonstop, will keep coming forward, keep throwing 1-2s, and just mastered the basics. She pretty much will out-decision anybody who isn't a top 4 or top fighter. She's not a finisher, though. She game plans very well, and she sticks to that game plan. She'll strike with grapplers, she'll grapple with strikers, and she was turning into a problem for the division because anytime the division was trying to build up a prospect, Katlyn comes in here screaming like a tennis player, landing her shots, and then getting this fight done. That's what she's been doing, just decisioning her way through pretty much everybody that was top 6 to top 15. But she is coming off of the 29-28 loss to Manon Fiorot, where she had plenty of volume, but she did not land as much as she would have hoped. And Manon Fiorot, as we know, is just a world-class striker, so Katlyn finally ran into that wall. And she's taking on Maycee Barber. Maycee Barber is a solid prospect. She's only 25 years old. She had a couple bumps in the road early in her career, but she has righted that ship. She's 5-0 in her last 5. She's a solid striker, good boxing, improved wrestling. She's not a grappler in style, but she does have some well-timed takedowns when she needs them, and she was able to take down Montana De La Rosa, Jessica Ai, Miranda Maverick, Andrea Lee in those fights. Her takedown defense is not great. It's 45%, and she has been taken down 11 times in the UFC, including 2 times in her last fight. She's coming off of the finish win over Amanda Ribas, which just absolutely crushed Jacob's dreams and broke his $1,000 hibachi parlay. I think this fight might literally explode a couple of heads. Jacob, out of disgust, he hates both of these women. And the judges, both of these women have been gifted decisions, bad decisions that they did not deserve. And the judges just seem to love them. I don't see this fight being much different, meaning I'm imagining a very close back and forth fight where somebody's going to get screwed. I'm going to slightly lean Maycee here, but that's because of her recent surge. She has basically won 3 fights in the time that Katlyn has been away. And all 3 of those wins were quality. Maycee's the more well-rounded fighter and should be able to get this done. I will warn you, though. Katlyn Chookagian has spoiled more than one night. Katlyn Chookagian has an incredible way of getting her opponents to fight her game. And if a 25-year-old Maycee Barber falls into that trap, she could end up losing a distance striking decision. Katlyn just bouncing around making tennis noises. And if you don't know what I mean by that, just watch a fight. She's like, every strike she throws, just a tennis noise. The only bet I would even consider here is over 2.5, and that should be an absolute lock. But Maycee's odds are far too gone. She is way too big of a favorite against a woman who has proven that she can just win these fights. She can just hang out at distance and win these point-striking matches. Maycee Barber is going to be the pick. Over 2.5 might be one of the safest bets on this card, although over 2.5 in Maycee's last fight did not hit, and I thought that was going to be safe. But Katlyn Chookagian doesn't take risks, isn't Amanda. Amanda Ribas takes risks, will slug it out, and then paid that price. But Katlyn Chookagian, now Katlyn Saramina, very tough, very good, probably loses, but can have some success on the outside for an over 2.5 bet. Then we have the featured fight. Now we finally have the featured prelim of the evening. And this was supposed to headline a fight night. Every fight I break down, I'm like, damn, this is a good card. This was supposed to be a fight night headliner, and now it is a featured prelim. I guess that tells you how good this card is. And the odds on this fight are wild. Jailton Almeida was a massive favorite when he was supposed to fight Curtis Blaydes in a fight night headline. Massive favorite. Then Curtis Blaydes is out. Derek Lewis steps up. The whole world is like, Jailton Almeida is going to finish Derek Lewis. He's going to take him down, submit him, he's going to finish him. And he didn't finish Derek Lewis. He beat the shit out of him, but he didn't finish him. And so then that got people going, oh, Jailton Almeida is not that good. Curtis Blaydes is phenomenal. Jailton Almeida is not that good. And now the odds have completely flipped. Curtis Blaydes was a plus 160 dog when this card opened. He was a bigger dog when it was for the prelim or the fight night. Plus 160 dog for this fight on this card. And now he's the favorite. Slight favorite, but now he's the favorite. Wild movement. But let's go ahead and talk about why. So first, we'll talk about Curtis Blaydes. Fantastic wrestler. He averages around 6 takedowns per fight. He is a heavyweight, but he'll wrestle like a welterweight, meaning he's got fast, clean entries to double legs, not those fat slob gazeve grab a leg and can't finish it because he's a slob. If you could tell, I'm harboring some hate. But he'll shoot doubles and sprint right through them. And as much as I praise Curtis's wrestling, which is impressive, he hasn't even attempted a takedown in 3 years. 3 years he hasn't attempted a takedown. His hands deserve some credit as well, though. We saw that in his fight against Chris Daukaus. He doubled Chris's strikes in the first round, knocked him out clean in the second. No takedown attempts. He is coming off the knockout loss to Sergey Pavlovich, though, which was frustrating because, again, no takedown attempts. And we've seen this time and time again. Successful wrestlers that are powerful, they are athletic, they find a knockout, and then they just forget the skill set that got them here. And I think that's going to be his undoing in this fight because he's fighting Jailton Almeida. This guy is a savage. He's an absolute savage. He hasn't looked like a human being in the UFC. Powerful hands, incredible grappling. All but one of his wins are by stoppage, and that's because of his nonstop pressure. He will come in hot, relentlessly work for takedowns. Once he's on the ground, he's going to chase submissions, hit you in the transitions. He has only ever been to one decision in the UFC, and that was his last fight against Derek Lewis, where he had 6 takedowns and 21 minutes of control time. People want to clown him. People want to say he's a fraud because he didn't finish Derek Lewis. He was doing whatever he wanted to Derek Lewis. And the only thing Derek Lewis was doing on the ground was protecting his chin, trying not to get choked. And if your only thing is don't get submitted, it's very hard to get submitted. So I'm not going to take that away from Jailton Almeida. I'm not going to say, well, he didn't finish Derek Lewis. What I will say is we just watched him go 25 minutes. We just watched this guy fight 25 minutes and not look tired. We just watched this guy fight the hardest puncher in the division and not have any issues. What happened when Curtis Blaydes fought Derek Lewis? I'll let you Google it. He shot a takedown into an uppercut and then went unconscious. Didn't happen to Jailton Almeida. The entire world seems to be on Curtis Blaydes here. He's definitely the popular pick this week. I've seen so many tweets of like, hey, everybody, Curtis Blaydes is a dog heading into this week. I get it on the surface. He's fought the higher level of competition. At one point, he was a guy. I don't think he's a guy. He's not shooting takedowns. He's not doing the thing that got him here. He's not going to defend Jailton Almeida's takedowns. Curtis Blaydes has a 33% takedown defense. And yeah, he's only been taken down a handful of times, but that's only because 2 people even tried to take him down. The only 2 people who tried to take down Curtis Blaydes did. Jailton Almeida will waste 0 time. Will shoot a takedown, get it to the ground, and go from there. Can he finish Curtis? I don't know. But I'll tell you right now, as big as Curtis is, as good of a wrestler as he is, he's going to be absolutely clueless off his back. Clueless off of his back. I like Jailton Almeida in this spot. The only reason I don't have a bet on him just yet is I'm going to drink my own champagne. I'm going to eat my own dog food, and I'm going to watch that line movement tracker and see how far this line goes. If I bet it when it first dropped, I would have been a sucker. We might get Jailton Almeida at plus money. Right now, he's like minus 105 to Curtis's minus 115. If we get Jailton Almeida at plus money, I will place a bet. I think he wins this fight. I think he is that guy. I think this is a great matchup. The only way Curtis wins this fight is if he shoots takedowns. I don't think he's going to be able to defend Jailton's takedowns. He couldn't defend if you go look at his record and look at the people who took Curtis down, they're nobodies. They are people you have never heard of that have had no success in MMA. Jailton Almeida is going to take him down. And Curtis Blaydes isn't Derek Lewis with the uppercut. Jailton Almeida is the pick. I'm going to be waiting for that line movement tracker. If you want to unlock the line movement tracker, if you want to have access to all that, WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It's only $10 a month. You're also going to get the safety parlay with that $10. Safety parlay, it missed at UFC Vegas 87, but it doesn't hit at 100% rate. Nothing does. Not in MMA. It does hit at a 71% rate, which is incredible. And for pay-per-view specifically, smooth sailing. 5-0 in the last 5 pay-per-views. 5.2147 units of net profit in the last 5 pay-per-views. I have hit 9 of the last 11 safety parlays, and I'm very confident I will hit this one as well. You can unlock this at WeWantPicks.com. Just click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10 for an entire month. That's going to get you 4 parlays, 4 events worth of picks, bets, tools, and all of that. And I'll also give you 50. Go to WeWantPicks.com/bet. Sign up, make a deposit using our links, and we'll send you $50 as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing. They're going to pay me. I'm going to slice off some of that money and give it right back to you. Go to the website, use the link, sign up, make a deposit. 4 of the 5 fights on the main card for UFC 299 are change of the guard fights. 4 of the 5 have a young prospect taking on either a former champion or a very established veteran. This is the first one. This is the main card opener. Young prospect Song Yadong taking on former champion veteran Petr Yan. And yes, Piotr's only 31. He's not 39. But this is sort of an aging vet at this point who is on a bit of a skid. 1-4 in his last 5. But Petr is still very good. Former bantamweight champion of the world, phenomenal striker, fantastic takedown defense, and surprisingly solid takedown offense as well. He is a nightmare for a lot of people because of how dangerous his striking is and how underrated his wrestling can be. He plots forward, he's got that Muay Thai style guard, and then he blasts away with power and accuracy. He averages almost 2 takedowns per fight with a solid 85% takedown defense. He is coming off his 3rd loss in a row, but it was to Merab. where he was taken down 11 times. And that sounds insane. 11 times. Oh my God. He defended 38. He defended 38 takedowns in that fight, which is crazy. He's taking on Song Yadong. This guy's a technical striker. He moves really well. He's fast. He hits hard. He's athletic. But he can be hittable at almost 4 significant strikes absorbed per minute. He throws everything with power, but that does leave him open for takedowns. Because he will plant, he will bomb, and his legs are wide open to be shot on. He's got okay submission defense, but he is very good at creating space and getting back to his feet if he is taken down. He does like to dictate the pace, but did show us that even when he's fighting somebody like a Ricky Simón, a phenomenal grappler, he will let his hands go and he trusts his takedown defense. He's coming off the 5-round decision win over Chris Gutierrez, where he won the striking and the grappling exchanges. This is an incredible fight. And this is going to be interesting. We're either going to be reminded by Jan of how good he was, what a former champion can look like, or we're going to have a changing of the guard. On the surface, when I saw this matchup, my gut immediately said, go with Song. Young, fast, hits hard. But then when I did the digging, I did the tape study. Tape study is so fun, guys. So fun. Tape study is fun. Everybody's so creative. When I did the tape study, I saw some holes. I saw how much Song gets hit. I saw how he doesn't fight well backing up. At least not as well as he does when he's moving forward. And I saw that outside of the Ricky Simón fight, he doesn't really have wins over ranked opponents either. Sure, he beat Cheeto, but that was 4 years ago before Cheeto was Cheeto. But even with all of those things working against Song on paper, I do feel like there's a changing of the guard here. I feel like that's going to be the theme of this card. Song hits hard. He's fast. He's willing to make a fight ugly. And that's exactly how you beat Jan. Song is going to be the pick. But for me, this is too close of a fight. Too good of a fight. I'm not going to bet on it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'll tell you right now, Jacob does have a good-sized bet on this with very good ads that he got a while ago. If you are a premium member, go check out his page. You'll see his bet on this fight. If you're not a premium member, become one. It's freaking $10. What are we talking about here? But I do think Song can win this fight, but this is a wildly tough test for him. Another change to the guard. Tried and true, aging out vet, Gilbert Burns taking on young up-and-comer Jack Maddalena. Jack Della Maddalena. I always, is it Jack Della Maddalena or Jack Della Maddalena? What's the Della? It's not hyphenated. Is it part of the Maddalena? Was it like his mother's maiden name and she kept it? What is the Della? We got Gilbert Burns. This guy is a grappler. He's developed striking over time, as anybody would at 37 years old with 28 fights of MMA experience. He's got very impressive power, especially considering he was a 155-pounder who moved up to welterweight. He is undersized for this division, but he's fast, he's powerful, he's tough enough to hang with some of the elite. He is coming off of that one-sided loss to Belal Muhammad, where he said he blew out his shoulder on a takedown attempt early. And I say he said, I mean, he ended up getting surgery, but I picked Belal to win, so I'm going to bask in that glory, injury or not. Taking on Jack Della Maddalena. This guy's a high-volume striker with an incredible jab. He plots forward on his toes and just pumps that jab out there. If his opponents throw back, he takes big steps and restarts that cycle. He's got solid power, a nose that's facing east while he's facing west, and solid jiu-jitsu when he needs it. His takedown defense is solid. It sits at 82%, and he is coming off of that close win over Kevin Holland back in September. Jacob and I got into an argument the other day. I said it was a close win. He's like, no, it wasn't. One bad judge gave it to Kevin. That doesn't mean it was. I actually think it was close. I thought Kevin had a little more success than people give him credit for. The problem with Kevin, and we'll talk about him next fight, is his cadence in fights. He makes like weird motions and movements, which makes it look like things are not going his way. Anyway, second fight in a row, changing of the guard. Tried and true vet, Gilbert Burns taking on young, hungry up-and-comer Maddalena. Again, I am going to go with the up-and-comer. This line is very close, and it probably should be. Burns is a more well-rounded fighter. He dropped Kamaru Usman in that title fight. But honestly, and this is going to be a take that people aren't going to like, that's it. That was his big moment in the UFC. Never became champ, never came close to becoming champ. Doesn't really have a ton of great wins. The closer you look at his record, the more you're like, oh, most of these wins are over fighters who are no longer in the UFC or fighters that he could take down, like Wonder Boy or Masvidal. Sort of one-dimensional kind of guys. I love Wonder Boy. but he can't defend a takedown. And that's all Gilbert Burns did in that fight. I think Maddalena is a different animal. If Gilbert had issues with Bilal's striking, imagine what Jack Maddalena is going to do to him. I can only imagine. I get it. People are about to spam the comments. Well, Gilbert hurt his shoulder. He'd beat Bilal every other time. It's not what happened, though. Shot a takedown because he was getting touched. Didn't get the takedown. Maybe he hurt his shoulder there, but either way, I think Gilbert Burns, I don't know what's happened, right? When he fought Khamzat Chimaev, he made that a tough fight. He made it a tough fight. I think Chimaev won that fight. He made it a tough fight. But the reality was, he made it a tough fight, and it was a close fight because Chimaev didn't wrestle. Not till late, at least. But then Gilbert Burns went on this whole, I beat him, just screenshotting very, very specific statistics to be like, I beat him, bad decision. And then he loses to Bilal Muhammad. Then he goes on this same tour. It was my shoulder, this, that, the other thing. He just started coming up with these excuses and became a little bit unlikable because of that. But Gilbert Burns is still a great guy. Still going to go out there, still going to fight his ass off. He's not a coward. And he actually is seems like a good human being. But 37, the sport's passing him by. Jack Maddalena is going to win this fight. He's going to piece him up, do whatever he wants to do on the feet, and defend the takedowns. Jack Maddalena is the pick, and I have a half a unit bet on him at -125. Then we have Kevin Holland taking on newly signed, very hyped, Michael Venom Page. This is a spectacular fight. The UFC is going out of their way to hype MVP, Michael Venom Page. They're going out of their way to hype him. Part of the UFC Vegas 87 broadcast was dedicated to Michael Venom Page, how good he is. What a great signing it is. And I agree with all of those things, but he's 36. A little bit older to be a fresh signing. He's not like Robelis, who we broke down at 35. Robelis is new to MMA. Michael Page has been around, has done the things. 23 fights in MMA with 21 wins, making his UFC debut. He's taking on Kevin Holland, though. Kevin Holland, accurate, powerful striker who has a slightly improved 53% takedown defense. I say slightly improved because before his last couple of fights, you could just take this guy down by looking at him. But he has worked on that, and if he does get taken down, he's got phenomenal jiu-jitsu. Other than that takedown defense, Kevin is a problem for a lot of people. He's a sniper on his feet, great accuracy at range. He can grapple really well, be competitive on the ground with his length. And just because it's easy to take him down, you're not safe if you do. He's coming off that close loss to Jack Della Maddalena where he landed more total strikes. He went 0 for 2 on takedown attempts. And those are the motions I talked about. Shooting takedowns didn't really make sense when he was doing them. And he has weird movements sometimes that the judges look like, oh, he's getting hit. Why is he doing that? But that's just his style. He has too much fun in there, does whatever the hell he wants to do. He's taking on Michael Venom Page. It's not a name for a lot of UFC fans, but I assure you, he's good. He's a savage striker that has been very successful in Bellator. He's certainly a few years past his prime, but he's still an insanely dangerous striker with a sport karate background. He's got that karate style, that awkward, unorthodox striking style, but it is very effective for him. He's insanely accurate, very powerful. He's very long, and he uses that range well on the outside before leaping in and working in his kickboxing. His takedown defense is solid, and you will not see him attempt any offensive takedowns. I mentioned MVP's a little old. He's 36. He's past his prime. And for a striker, that's kind of very old. But he is still a great signing by the UFC, and I think we could expect some fun fights out of him. He's almost like a Wonder Boy in his style, right? His range control, his stance, but he's much faster than Wonder Boy and much more powerful. This is definitely a big step up in competition for MVP, but I do think he can win here. I think his unorthodox style will have Kevin missing and then looking to wrestle. MVP is going to be the pick. I have a small bet on him at plus 100, even money. Plus 100 means that you give him $10, they'll give you 20 back, right? You got your 10 back and then another 10. You give him 100, same logic. So I got it at plus 100. But I fully recognize that this is literally going to be the toughest fight of Venom's career. It's one thing to smack around regional Bellator guys. It's a whole nother thing to be in there with somebody as seasoned as Kevin, somebody as composed, somebody like Kevin who has a great chin, durable guy, great striking. I am going to pick Michael Venom Page, but I am not parlaying him. Kevin Holland, that sound was my keyboard. I moved my keyboard sound. Don't let your imagination go crazy. Michael might have some trouble with Kevin here. Kevin is good. Very, very good. Doesn't get credit for as good as he is. I'm still going to lean Michael Page here, and that just might be the MMA fan in me excited for this signing. But I'm not doing anything outside of that half a unit plus 100 bet. Then we have the co-main event of the evening. Changing of the guard theme again. Dustin Poirier, tried and true, former, I believe, interim champion of this weight class. 35 years old, taking on Benoit Saint-Denis, special forces guy, 28, young, hungry, crazy. This should be an absolute banger of a fight. Dustin Poirier, very good boxer. Very clean technique. High fight IQ, a BJJ black belt. His striking is clean. He's going to keep distance, and then he'll step in with a long jab. You could argue that he changed MMA. He did not invent the calf kick, but he had success with it against Conor on the biggest stage imaginable, and then everybody started calf kicking after that. While Dustin will work in the occasional takedown, his accuracy is a low 36%. He's coming off that head kick knockout loss to Justin Cagey, where he did not win the BMF belt. I did, though. I beat Jacob's ass for the BMF belt. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Jacob and I fought. It was friendly, but we fought. And one of our fans sent, I'm looking at it. You can't see. I don't know why I'm looking up. Sent us a BMF belt for the winner. So I have it. It is here. There's a video. You can go watch that video. Anyway, Dustin's taking on Benoit Saint-Denis. This guy is a strong wrestler. Well-timed shots, a ton of pressure on top. Good old-fashioned lower your level, attack the leg style wrestling, which is very effective for him. He has 6 fights in the UFC with 15 takedowns, which is incredible considering he has only ever seen the third round one time. When he gets to the ground, he's got very good pressure and works submissions well. He has a ton of power on his feet, which he also brings to the ground. He's going to come forward, bomb away like an absolute wild animal, shoot at your legs and try to get you to the ground. He's coming off of the 90-second knockout win over Matt Frevola. Listen, Benoit Saint-Denis is French, but he doesn't fight like the French. Most of the French fight with that savant style. That is the name of the style. I was talking to a very accomplished fighter, and I was like, why the hell all these French people fight the same? He goes, oh, that's the savant style. So that's the name of that style. That Giannis Gamori, stay on the outside, boring as shit. That's not Benoit. He's got all the French in the name, none of the French in the fight style. He's all chaos. He's basically a lightweight Dricus du Plessis. He only knows how to move forward. He only knows how to apply pressure. He only knows how to attack, and that makes him exciting, but it also makes him sloppy. If you can navigate the crazy, if you can find your way through the whirling dervish of chaos that he brings, you can have some success and find your openings. I do think this is a changing of the guard fight. Dustin is 35 in like normal human years, but 45 in fighting years. He has been in a ton of wars. He has entertained us year in and year out, but that Justin Gaethje knockout loss might have been the final straw. We've seen plenty of legends lose to lesser skilled fighters because their chins have given out. I think that might be what happens here. If I knew Dustin's chin would hold up, he would be the pick. He's the better fighter. But with Benoit's power and the way Dustin was just knocked out 7 months ago, I need to worry. Dustin's the far better fighter here, and if he can weather an early storm, he can take over in rounds 3, 4, and 5. This is a 5-round co-main event. And we have seen Dustin Poirier in drag-him-out savage wars. But there's always that one fight that changes things. And I think Justin Gaethje knocking out Dustin is going to change things. Is Dustin going to become Tony Ferguson? No. He's not going to be Tony Ferguson. He's too accomplished, too successful, too smart, too good of a fighter to become Tony Ferguson. But I do think that knockout to Gaethje is the beginning of the end of his, not his career necessarily, but certainly his vying for a title, working his way up the ranks. I got to go with Benoit Saint-Denis here. I don't know if I'm going to bet on it, though. I'm going to be full-on rooting for Dustin Poirier, and I don't like betting against people I'm rooting for. So I'll be rooting for Dustin. Hopefully we get a war like with Dan Hooker and some of those other fights that we are a few years removed from, but the Michael Chandler fight was a war. I'll be rooting hard for Dustin, but, I mean, this awkward smile over here on the right is probably going to win this fight. So Benoit Saint-Denis is the pick, and this is a great test for him. Then we have the main event of the evening, a rematch. Sean O'Malley avenging his only MMA loss to Marlon Cheeto Vera. This fight happened 4 years ago. It's a rematch from 4 years ago where Cheeto touched up Sean's leg that eventually led to a TKO. Sean pretends he's undefeated. He just says that was a freak injury. I don't think that was a freak injury. Cheeto blasted his legs, and then his leg gave out. It seems pretty straightforward to me, trying to see where the freak part happened. A freak injury would have been when Brian Ortega snapped his ankle jumping up and down before they announced his name. That's a freak injury. Getting blasted in the calves and then your ankle giving out, it's not a freak injury. You got blasted in the calves and your ankle gave out. Anyway, Sean O'Malley is very good, though. A very good fighter. That's why he's the current bantamweight champion of the world. And it wasn't controversial. He put out Aljamain Sterling. He's a very good striker, very real power, good accuracy. He's far more athletic than he looks, I'll tell you that much. And he pretty much does whatever he wants on his feet, including a wide array of kicks and spinning techniques that actually land. We know he can be a dog. We saw that in the Jan fight. And he's an accurate counter striker like we saw in that Aljo fight. His biggest asset is his pinpoint accuracy and his ability to use his reach really well. His biggest flaw, though, is blocking leg kicks. And that sounds like sarcasm, but Cheeto smoked him with the leg kicks. Pedro Munhoz also won the first round of their fight with the leg kicks before that eye poke in the second round. But Sean is coming off of that title win over Aljamain Sterling, where he lost that first round, but finished in the second with a beautiful step off and just blasted Aljo on a bad takedown attempt. He's taking on Marlon Chito Vera. This guy's a Muay Thai striker who likes to fight ugly. He does a great job using all of his tools for a pretty versatile attack style. While he doesn't wrestle often, he is a submission threat if it gets to the ground. He does have a negative striking differential. He is very hittable, but he has so much power and such a great chin that when he is completely outstruck, which happens somewhat often, it happened to Font, Edgar Cruz, his faces look like hamburger meat and he totally looks fine. He is coming off of that win over Pedro Munhoz, where only the fourth time in his career, for only the fourth time, did he land more strikes than his opponent. Chito Vera is a low-volume guy, but he's got so much power. He's so durable, it doesn't even matter. This is an excellent fight. These odds are closer than the 2.5 to 1 odds would tell you. Sean is the cleaner, more accurate striker. Chito is going to be the more durable and powerful striker. On paper, this is supposed to be a banger of a fight, but I actually don't know if it will be. Sean's probably going to wait for the pressure like he did against Aljo, and that's not how Chito fights. Chito stays in front of you, but he doesn't necessarily move forward recklessly. We may have two very patient guys that are waiting for their openings, and if that's the fight, I think Sean O'Malley wins. He should be the more accurate striker. But if hands actually fly and we get a good amount of exchanges, I'm going to need to go with Chito. His chin is incredible. So I'm not worried about any power from Sean. His power is incredible. And we saw Sean get rocked in that Petr Yan fight. Chito's cardio is incredible as well, and he can snatch something up if it's on the ground. This is a really tough fight to pick, and an even tougher fight to bet on, because the odds are a little wonky here. But I am going to pick the dog. I opened up this whole video talking about 5 of the 7 main event dogs won this year, 4 in a row. 2 pay-per-views in 2024, both underdogs won that main event. I think Chito can do this here as well. Sean O'Malley is a spectacular striker, but Chito seems to be a different breed. You beat Chito with activity. You beat Chito with takedowns, and that's what Corey Sandhagen did to him. That's not Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley's going to strike with Chito this whole time. And plenty of people have outstruck Chito Vera and lost that fight. I think this is another one. And what is going to be interesting as well is this is in Miami. And while Chito, I believe, is Ecuadorian, he's not Cuban, he's not Puerto Rican, but I think the Spanish-speaking heavy Miami is going to be on Chito's side, not Sean O'Malley's side. And I think Sean O'Malley is used to people thinking he's the best and used to people loving him and cheering for him. And when he doesn't get those cheers, when he doesn't get what he thinks he's going to get because Chito is going to be the Spanish crowd's favorite, I think that might mess with him as well. So I'm going to lean Chito here. I think over on rounds is going to be the play. I don't know what the round line is going to be. Maybe 3.5 rounds. That would be fantastic. I think the over there is going to be the best play. Both of these guys are durable. We saw Sean O'Malley in that war with Petr Yan. Neither one of them are fast starters. We got a counter striker versus a patient striker. I hope we get a 3.5 round line, and then I will go ahead and bet the over there. Guys, that is my breakdown. I ask you to become a premium member. It's only $10 a month. A, it's a great way to support the channel, support what we do, show some love for the fellas. B, it's also loaded with tools, insight, information. You're going to get the line movement tracker. Give you opening odds, current odds, win probability, and the line movement for every single fight so you can spot trends and avoid some bad spots. You're going to get the detailed data, metrics, and analytics. I love using this for prop bets. Very quickly see significant strikes landed versus absorbed. Takedowns landed versus takedowns received. That's not the right word. Versus takedown defense. And you can go take that, bring those to your prop bets. You're also going to get more than just me and Baby Red. Artem breaking down every card. Not just UFC. He's breaking down the PFLs, the Contender Series of the world. And you're going to get the Pick Doctor. That is an AI. We have an artificial intelligence built by a nuclear physicist. That sounds fake. I promise you it isn't. Built by a nuclear physicist that is picking at an astronomical rate. An astronomical pick percentage coming from the artificial intelligence. All of that and so much more for only $10 for an entire month. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. And here are the socials. Doesn't cost you anything. Discord is free. Eventually, we're going to flip it, but it is 100% free for now. And we are on every single social at WeWantPicks. Guys, thank you so much for the watch. And we appreciate the 22,000 of you that have chosen to subscribe.